Foreigner in the Philippines, good evening. Well, let me see, it's nearly 7:30. We just got in from another busy day. It seems like all we have is busy days, and and I wish it wasn't always so, but as soon as we go out the door it just seems like everything piles in. Today we had another adventure with our little truck, which seems to be haunted at the moment. We had our friend, the mechanic Nestor, do some work. He had the head off, did put new rings in, and a few other things, renewed some oil seals that had caused the truck to lose most of the oil. Well, surprise, surprise. As we're driving along there with some important stuff to do, we had Jessica and two of her boys riding in the back, just filling in the time because it was too early for them to go to afternoon school. Let me see, we were on our way to get some materials for the rag house down to a taffy. Well, we hadn't gone very far when the motor starts to rev, kind of like it happens when you have one of those cables which actually start to bust a few strands, and then it can't operate, it can't return, and you get a high revving engine. So it was kind of like that. And then looking down and thinking, what the hell? And then I look at the temperature gauge and it's hard over on the right. So pull over, take the radiator cap off, and sure enough it's boiling. If the water was clean we could have had coffee or tea even, but of course it's not clean, is it? And I'm sure that someone will tell me that. Now, after putting in a lot of water and having it boil out little by little is how you do that. If it boils over, you don't want to load it with water because you might crack the block and stuff like that, I understand. So we gradually get it topped up with water. This is where the fun comes in the Philippines. Two little kids are walking along and look about maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, and they're very curious as to what's going on. And when we realize that we don't have enough water, we do carry a 2 or 2.5 gallon can of water in the back. As soon as we realize we don't have enough, Beth just says to the kids, here's 50 pesos, will you go and fill this with water? Sure, we will. And off they troop, walking as if they'd got the entire day to do it. And I said to Beth with my Western sarcasm, do you think that they'll be back today? And she calls after them and gives them the equivalent of, you should actually be hurrying, and then they step up the pace, come back with the water, and we fill up. And then with in a moment of inspiration, when you think about the fact that it's just been in the shop and I bought 3 litres of oil because that was going to be renewed, who would have thought that there would be a need for oil? But just out of my ignorance, I thought, well, I don't know what else to look at, so I tried to look at the oil. Well, I don't know what they did, whether they put that dipstick in with a 7-pound sledgehammer, but boy did it take some getting out. But I finally got the dipstick out. I can't see any oil on the dipstick at all. So then I have to go off, and that's my next errand. So, once again, this is where it's so different in the Philippines. Now, if I was in the UK or in the US, I'd be totally on my own, unless some real good Samaritan might stop and ask me what the problem is, which does happen in both places, but but rarely I find, especially as you get more into the built-up areas. So I'm walking along to where I know in Itafi there will be oil. There'll be oil in one of the stores there. So I set off, and as I'm passing an older man, not older than me of course, I mean he wouldn't be riding a bike would he, but I pass this mature looking man, and I smile at him and say hello, and yes, he returns my greeting, and then he's about to get on his motorcycle, turns his bike around and looks at me. I guess he's looking, I wonder why this filthy rich foreigner, because all foreigners are filthy rich. Actually, I'm just filthy. But anyway, he looks at me with a quizzical look, and I say, could you give me a ride? I need some oil. So we finally, it's not perfect in English, we finally get an understanding, and he will take me for oil. So I hop on the back of his bike, and out we go. So he takes me along, he takes me to where there is a store that we can get oil in. I go in there, the man says, yes, you'll need 2 litres of oil. I buy the 2 litres of oil, get back on the bike, and my newfound friend takes me all the way back to our truck, which is by the side of the road still, with Beth in the back downloading videos, which is what she does. Anyway, I top it up, use all 2 litres of oil, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I said to the man, dropped me off, and I gave him 100 peso note, and he said to me, he looked at the note and he said 20 pesos. So here I am thinking I'm going to get ripped off, and I said to him, you want another another 20 pesos? And he said, 20 pesos? I charged 20 pesos. So he could have charged me 120 pesos and I would have paid it. I wouldn't have been happy, I wouldn't have felt it was fair, but I would have paid 120 because I intended to pay him 100 pesos, because whatever he was about to do, he had put that on hold. He had very kindly, very helpfully, happily, had taken me where I needed to go, waited till I got my oil, packed me back on the bike, brought me back, made sure I was okay, and then he was going to charge me 50 cents. I said, no, you have 100 pesos. He was delighted with that. Now, 100 pesos, it's $2. $2 for someone to take you where you need to go. Not far, probably half a mile or maybe a mile. Wait for you and bring you back again safely. 50 cents. How bad can that be? And he wanted to charge me the equivalent of, let me see, 20 pesos would be, let me see, what did 100 pesos I paid him is $2, but he wanted to charge me only 40 or 50 cents. Amazing. And when I got back in, my wife Beth had watched this happen, and when I got in the truck and we were driving off together, I looked over at her and smiled, and she said, see, lots of honest people in the Philippines. And it's true. This is just one little snippet of life as it can happen here. And here, because of the cottage industry nature of how the economy works, in other words, people are working a few rice fields, people have a little sari-sari store that sells everything in sachets, and the one egg, which I always talk about. You can buy one egg. Now, can I have an egg, please? Just one? And you say, yes, please. And they give you one egg. They'll give you a tiny sachet of washing powder. They'll give you an even tinier sachet of shampoo. A small tablet like this of soap. It's a one egg economy, and that's how it works. So this man, probably, judging by the headgear he had on, which was a t-shirt which just has the hole for the neck is around the face like this, and then the rest they cover themselves and they look a little bit like Lawrence of Arabia, and that's what he was dressed in. So it may be that he was a motorcycle taxi and was normally down in a taffy where they stand there until they're called, and then they'll run you almost anywhere that you want for just a few pesos, you know. And it's a wonderful system. I find it wonderful because you can do almost anything. When the truck broke down in Taliban and we left it with Nesta, I said, what will we do now? Well, we'll have to go and get the cladding for the rag house. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we'll put it on the tricycle. We go down there and we take a tricycle. Now, talk about overloading. The guy puts all of this cladding on. It's like 3 big rolls, 4 feet wide, and they're 8 feet long, and they're rolled up into cylinders, like cylinders that have about a 14 or 15 inch diameter, and they're all rolled up. And then on the roof he put all of the bamboo slats, which are like 2 inches by a half, and that's how they get that panelled look on the Nipa houses with the Macon cladding. And it's not that he didn't quibble. Beth told him, well, we need to go and get this cladding, and he goes. They work out how best to put the cladding on, and they do it. No fuss, not a big problem, and not a huge price. Really very, very reasonable. So that's a typical little day with yet another adventure. This is Foreigner in the Philippines. Bye for now.